I'm going to record on my computer, so it's not recording to the cloud. And then John is here.
Hey, John.
Or he's coming in anyway. There he is.
Don't you bark.
Oh, your cat's purring. That's good. I'm missing my kitty, so.
Oh.
She's
Sorry.
pretty funny. She takes a day to warm up, then she's really good, and then I leave.
Well, besides the dog, we have 2 cats too,
Okay.
so they could very well make an appearance.
Hi, Diane. I see your face now.
There we go.
Hi, Esther.
Oh, no. I look terrible.
Stickers.
So, Diane, is the trick. If you move your, are you on your phone?
Stop
I'm
it.
on iPad. Daisy.
You can move. There's a thing that says two little boxes that say mute, and then there's another box that has 3 dots in it. If you pull that 3 dot thing down, you can say, let's see, where does it say? I gotta look at mine. It says you can hide your self view, so you don't have to worry about seeing yourself if you don't like to see yourself.
It's not me. I don't want anybody else to see me because I'm not all, I look terrible. I don't look good. I don't like people to see me when I don't look good.
You guys have heard me preach. You know I'm on all together anyway, so.
So you can just look at the ceiling fan.
Here we go.
Stickers.
So I think we're all here. John, are you on audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Daisy.
So I'd like to look at if you have your packets, I'd like you to look at a thing called welcoming prayer, which was
Drop it.
had the paper clips that holding it onto the back of the kind of the 10 other ways of looking at it. Welcoming prayer is, when I work with my spiritual director, she comes back again to this type of prayer again and again and again. Welcoming prayer is really how to sit in the world, how to sit with things that have happened to you, things that, in some cases, chronic illness or, things that are frustrating every day. When I teach a forgiveness class, I always like to tell this story. I was actually, a couple of years ago, I try to do a regular practice of prayer every morning of usually a half an hour. And like, I'm sure if you guys have been practicing your prayer, which have you been practicing?
Yes.
Yay, I hear one.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, has that been helpful now actually practicing versus just thinking about it?
What did I miss?
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
I'm not sure I quite get it yet.
It takes practice.
Oh, you mean the meditation part, you mean?
What now?
You mean the meditation part?
Yeah. Practice.
Yeah.
Thinking about that, it's about sitting with God versus praying to God. That's different for most of us, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's also why we're looking at different ways of doing it. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 of us.
Ouch.
There's 7 plus however many different ways each of us pray. Okay. There's no set way to pray. God is listening always. But part of it is doing that practice. And the more you give yourself the grace to practice, the more you will find your pattern. And if you're having real trouble, give me a call.
Okay, what am I missing? Are you talking about or the meditation part, or what are you talking about?
I'm both and.
Okay, okay.
But if you're, because we're really talking about meditation or contemplation here, it's really about getting used to doing that also.
Okay, got ya.
Giving yourself the grace to do that. And kind of keeping in mind that you're praying with rather than just to God, because we're very used to praying to God, you know, and
Right.
acting and praising and all those things that we do. So it's a different mindset of praying with. And yet that's what Jesus did, and I'm very positive that that's what Jesus taught his disciples to do too. Because he would say, the kingdom of God is very near you, and what he was inviting that person to do is to, with their ears and their eyes and their feelings, to look around and actually pay attention to how the kingdom of God was with them already. If that makes sense.
Well, it's that whole thing that you try to do about being in the moment.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Diane, I think we have you on 2 different devices.
Double dive.
My
You're on your iPhone and then something else that's looking at the wall.
iPad died.
Okay.
Oh,
So should I shut one off?
Yeah, shut one off. The one you're looking at right now is we see your face, and turn the other one off.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're getting a weird echo.
we're getting a reverb, as they call it.
You got, probably got it lean back too far.
So anyway, I want to look at what's called welcoming prayer. And before we look at that, I like to tell a story. I was doing my regular prayer practice, and like what probably happens to you and has been happening to you, your mind doesn't want to settle down. You start thinking about everything you need to do today. You start thinking about, like this morning I was thinking about, okay, I got communion, I got the prayer class, I got 2 people I got to call after I get done with the class. And, you know, and that stuff just keeps interrupting you. And then every once in a while, I notice I do settle down and I stay with it. But so I was in prayer a couple of years ago, and I'm having an argument with my mother in my head. I mean, have you ever had an argument with children? Or we do that all the time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Both walking around and in prayer or whatever. But anyhow, I'm having this argument. And then it kind of dawned on me, why am I having this argument? My mother had died the year before. So I'm not even having a fake argument, getting ready to have a real argument, you know? So it's like, I think I need to look at this. Why am I still doing this, you know? And so one of the things that contemplative prayer offers us is that these kind of things kind of come up to our consciousness, and it's a way to, that God is inviting us to grow and mature more in our spirituality and in our emotionality and in our life. So for me, then I had to kind of pay attention to what does it mean, in that case was to forgive my mom and to let go of that constant, how would you say, that septic judgment that I was struggling with her with. And so that's somewhat one of the things that welcoming prayer is good for, is to just acknowledge the fact, oh, I keep doing this, you know, or so-and-so did this to me today and I can't let it go.
I always feel guilty when I do that.
I'm sorry?
I always feel guilty when I do that. Like, you know, you're trying to pray and then all of a sudden something rushes into your head and then you're thinking about that and you're thinking, that's not right to do that.
Well, and then that's one of the struggles with this kind of prayer, is to just say, oh, I've done that before. And then you just gently kind of say, okay, I'm going to stop. And then gently just push it out of the way. And that's the difficult thing with it.
Okay.
That makes sense. But
Yep.
our minds do not like to let go even in contemplation, do not like to let go and let God in. You know, we like to have control. You know, we like our judgments to have the final say. We like our understanding to have the final say. And contemplative prayer is really, and it doesn't happen all the time, but there are moments then where God breaks through. You know, and that's why and then sometimes God is breaking through and we don't even know it, okay? So we're busy doing whatever the practice is for the morning or the day. And then we quit, and then you notice that later on in the day that something happens, or, you know, you see somebody, or you see a mother holding a child, or you see someone smiling, and suddenly, or a bird flying across, or the sea, and suddenly you see that in a slightly different way, and that's God at work with you in the prayer. If that makes sense? I mean, we have those experiences anyway. But I think when we begin doing a practice of contemplative prayer, that then our prayer is always then brought into our life, and God is always bringing it, not just in the prayer, but into our life as we live it. And that's what the kind of overall process of prayer like that does. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So that's also why it's hard. This is not, we've all had how many collective years in this screen of practicing having our own way. It takes a long time to get away from that.
A couple of centuries here.
Yeah, we got a couple.
Next week.
So, you know, the simplest way is centering prayer, which is to breathe deep, breathe in, breathe out. And then as those things where God breaks, or the world keeps breaking in, we just gently push them out of the way. And be gentle, because God has patiently been waiting for me. God's been waiting for 67 years, and every once in a while he gets my attention. So
That sounds.
So Diane, you still have 2 devices on.
They're off.
I
Okay,
feel like I'm a spaceship or something.
that's okay. We'll work with it.
Yeah, it's good.
And we have someone else. Russell is entering. Russell Marin.
Russ Moraine.
There we go. So anyway, I'm going to pull up the welcoming prayer on the screen. We'll wait till Russ gets on. Welcome, Russ. So anyway, let me share screen here with you all. So this is the thing that I had given to you too on welcoming prayer. And if you don't have it, send me an email and I will get that sent to you. There's 2 ways of looking at this. So there's 2 sides to it. Basically, they're the same thing. It's just different ways of approaching it. So, and what we've been talking about is, you know, contemplative prayer is anything we do that intentionally opens our hearts, minds, bodies to a unitive consciousness or presence of love, or what we call God. And it talks about, this is from Richard Rohr, and he talks about his favorite people that he has worked with and read about. But welcoming prayer is a simple way of surrendering to God's presence in our daily life. Okay, this method can help us dismantle unhelpful mental and emotional habits so that we respond rather than react. Because that's also part of it, right? When something happens to us, and in this day and age, I think we're invited to react rather than to respond in healthy ways. We got so many people that just react. We've got, you know, road rage and all that. And there's kind of, sadly, there's kind of permission to do that. And then this is also important to the next sentence. To be clear, I'm not suggesting that we welcome or accept abuse, trauma, or oppression, but rather our feelings around those incidents. We then become empowered to take necessary action more freely and creatively and lovingly. So when I was talking about, you know, stuck in my prayer and arguing with my mother, I'm reacting to her. I'm reacting to also assumed things of ways that I'm seeing her react to me. And of course, all that I'm doing then in reacting to her is just causing myself to be more reactive and emotionally reactive and whatever, rather than to just say, well, why am I doing this? You know, how can I do this in more of a healthy way? So, and I want to drop it down to this other bold area. So one of the things, when we're going to look through this, but, and he's inviting us to feel the pain, the offense, the way you first felt it or are feeling it in this moment, and notice the hurt in your body. And why is this important? Because if we move those things to our mind, we go back to a dualistic way of thinking. And in our world, we operate in a very dualistic way, which is through judgment. Something's good or bad, you know, good guy, bad guy, win, lose, either or. I get my way, you don't get your way, you're getting your way, I don't get mine. But what this is asking us to do is just pay attention to what are we feeling. And in the sense that when we pay attention to that, we're just paying attention. Our feelings don't have any value. They're just our feelings, if that makes sense. Our experiences have no value until we put judgments to them. They're just our experiences. And so, and that takes practice, okay? That takes lots of practice. So I'm going to come back, pop out of this before we practice this a little bit. So for those of you who have been practicing, did anybody have what you would call a moment? A moment where you kind of had a sense that you were actually sitting in God's presence, or an emotional moment, and you don't have to share specifically what it was, but then your mind came in and you started thinking about it, and it just kind of took everything away. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah. Getting distracted, you mean?
Well, no, not getting distracted, but actually having a true sense of having a God moment in your prayer.
I experience that quite often as myself, but my prayer time is very important to me, and I do it daily.
Okay.
And I have those moments. I do have those moments.
And so what I was talking about is that then sometimes when you have those moments, you go, oh, that was wonderful, right?
Yes. Oh,
and
yes.
you start thinking about it. What does this mean? And why does it come at me this way and whatever? And as soon as you start analyzing it, it's kind of like your brain removes you from the experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not as full suddenly anymore. So in contemplative prayer, it's to try to stay with that experience, which is something we're not used to. You know, we're used to analyzing life. We're used to judging life all the time. And in just allowing ourselves to be in it, that's more of what you call a non-dual way of thinking, versus a dualistic way, which is either or versus both and.
Pastor, I don't know how to shut this off.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. We're used to it now.
Yeah, it's part of God's presence with an
Yeah.
electronic thing, so that's okay.
Just kick back and relax, girlie. It's all right.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the share again, and this. So what I'd like to do is just kind of go through this and pray this. And so I really invite you to, and we're going to follow this pattern. And the welcome, welcome, welcome is also a way, if you think of it, it's what I do when we do the breath prayer. We just welcome everything in. And I'll just go through it slowly. And then I will invite you to, open yourself to a hurt or an offense, or someone or something that's hurt you, and you go there for yours. You do not have to share that with any of us unless you want to after the prayer time. So I invite you to quiet your hearts and minds. And if you want to follow along, if you're doing this at home alone, you would use this worksheet and you just kind of go through it step by step.
Is this a good time that we should all mute and just listen to you?
Sure. Yeah, so yeah, I would say, and go on, silence your phones, or not, mute your phones. That would be the helpful thing. Yeah, that helps a lot. So the first thing we do is we quiet our hearts and minds. Just allow ourselves and allow God to be present here and with us. So just as a friend of mine once said, show up. We show up to be with God. We show up in our prayer. And then we welcome. It says, welcome, welcome, welcome. I welcome everything that comes to me at this moment, including the noise that comes over the phone, including the dog, everything that is here. The light coming in from outside, the noise through the walls, if there's a plane going, all of this is God's world. All of this is God's world, and God is present in all of it. We welcome all our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, the persons, the situations we're in now, the situations and conditions we've been going through. God is in all of this, always present, always here. We just welcome it all. And if it helps, we breathe in and we breathe out. We breathe in and we breathe out. And we're invited to let go of our desire for security. God is here. Let go of our desire for affection. God is here. We let go of our need to control.
Oh, boy. You get
God is here.
today. Holy cow. You are a privileged dog.
We let go of our desire to change any situation or condition, person, or even myself at this moment. We just let it go. God is here. We do not need to be in control of anything. And let's just rest, because we don't have to have it in control. Just rest from that.
Go. Here's your breakfast. Go ahead, have your breakfast. Here it is.
So then after we've been resting in this kind of freedom, we open ourselves to the love and presence of God and the healing action and the grace within God's presence. Allowing God to be here, God with us, right here, right now. And as we hold that, as we let it be with us, then just take some time and identify a hurt or an offense or something or someone who has hurt you, let you down recently in the past. And just feel what that felt like. Don't judge it. Don't try to analyze it. Just feel the pain of the offense or the way it hurt or the way it felt. And notice the hurt in your body. And just feel it so you don't create who wins, who loses. Just acknowledge the fact that it hurts, that it causes you to suffer. How much it hurts, or how abandoned you felt. Just pay attention to it. All it is pain. All it is whatever it is. Don't analyze it. Just let yourself feel it. And one of the other things that we acknowledge is that God is right here with you. In the chimes. Right here, right now. God is right here with you in this pain. In the world around you. In all of this. And one of the things that he says here is once you move to this place and know how much it hurts for you, it's something that we don't want anyone else to experience if it's possible. Maybe it and allow it to move us to a great compassion. But most importantly, don't fight it, don't split and blame. Welcome it. Welcome the grief, welcome the anger, welcome all its heaviness, and allow it to be a teacher. Allow it to help us know and be where God is right here, right now with us. So pay attention to how letting yourself feel this rather than to fight it also helps you let it go a little bit. Also helps you to just let it go to the place that God can care for you with it. And to let it go and to see how it causes you so much unhappiness. And that God has been there right with you always. And knows what it feels like. And will not stop loving you no matter what. And again, it's about welcoming it all. That it's not either or, but it's always both and. God is always in the suffering with us, always present with us in all of life, in the joys and in the craziness. I invite you to give God thanks for this time and this grace. and to just be here with us. So we say amen.
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 And then we'll come back together in our group. Now this, I think, is a little hard to share as a group, but I don't know if you can see the benefit of using this prayer. Because we all care, you know, we all walk with so many things in life that we get so reactive to. And in this day and age, it's kind of the norm, it seems like, that we're supposed to react rather than be wise. You know, and I think if we do this more often, it allows the wisdom of God to come into our hearts. And again, it takes practice. It takes just trusting that to kind of go through it. And I invite you to look on the other side of that page because it's just a slightly different way of looking at it. So any reactions? I know we're doing this as a group over the great Ethernet, so it's a little strange. But any responses? Anybody surprised by anything? You don't have to be very specific, but if was it helpful?
I
Yes.
think that it could be if a person keeps doing this,
Yeah.
practices
It takes
it.
practice. It takes practice.
Yeah, I think it could be. Because there's, you know, I have an ongoing issue that I've been trying to shake for quite some time, and I have a hard time, still am having a hard time
Yeah.
trying to shake it, but I think this will be helpful, and maybe through the grace of God, it will finally, you know, dissolve, you know.
Yeah. Well, and like what you're saying is you're hearing it kind of inviting you into a different way of seeing it and feeling it, or just feeling it and not having to have that value or judgment that we put with that all.
Yeah, I don't feel that so much anger as I did before.
Yeah. And this is also a way to process anger. It's just to acknowledge that, oh, it makes me angry. Because things do.
Sure.
Anger can be a tool, but it can also be a great crushing load too. So we all know that, I hope.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? In this kind, we're kind of just noticing the beginnings of things. But we're not used to just letting everything come into our prayer, right? We're used to controlling our prayer rather than just welcoming all of life and welcoming that God is in all of our life. I was working with someone once and I said, well, and she said, well, I don't want to say that because then God knows. And I said, didn't you just tell me that God knows everything? And it was like a light bulb went on in her head. It's like, oh, you know, I do that all the time. We partition our lives thinking that, well, God isn't in this part, but yet God is there.
Oh, yeah.
That is a totally different concept, though, where those thoughts that come up,
Yeah.
while you welcome them and you just accept them and pray into that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you're always invited, if you do some in all kind of contemplative prayer, just be gentle, because God is already so gently just inviting you to come. It's not a have to. You know, as Lutherans, we understand that we are okay with God, not by anything that we can do, but by what God has already done for us, right?
Right.
Allow
Right.
it to be real. I mean, if we could share that with the world, I think everybody should have been Lutheran by now, right?
Yeah.
And this is another way of just being in that grace in the middle of all the craziness of life and taking the value off of whether we react this way or react that way, and instead of reacting, just what was the word that it said? Experience. You know? And we know that even Jesus had to react. You know, my God, why have you forsaken me? He has gone through it all before us.
Hi, John.
Hey, Diane. Yeah, I think of Jesus kicking over those money changers' tables too. So yeah, everybody reacts.
Yeah, I was thinking today, you know, there's the story that before he gets to the money, that he drives everybody out of the temple, he curses the fig tree.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
and I think that's in Mark, Matthew, and Luke, and I'm not sure, I think it's pretty much always in that order. He wants figs, and the scripture says it's out of season, you know, and it's like most of us just say, oh, dang it, they're out of season. I can't have a fresh fig. And so Jesus curses this poor fig tree. It's out of season. It doesn't have a chance anyway. My sense is that Jesus knows he's going to be having a really bad day.
Yeah.
And so he curses the fig tree rather than really doing damage in the temple. Now, whether that's right or wrong, you know, he knows what he's doing is going to cause all sorts of reaction, and that it's going to push people to take him to the cross, right? So rather than reacting and retaliating, I mean, the poor fig tree is all I can say. We would have less people shooting each other anyway, hopefully.
Amen.
Really?
Amen.
And the second part of this welcoming prayer really has been helpful during that whole situation.
Okay.
Where you just like identify the hurt and the offense, and this has been a tough week.
Yeah.
We really didn't look very good on the national news.
Well, it's not aiming at you. You got to remember that.
I don't think it was on the national news. I don't think they would have got arrested. So I'm glad it was.
Yeah, if it had.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right.
And that's, you know, talk about the living life reactively rather than life contemplatively. Oh, yeah, it's so sad.
Pastor, it's hard not to live life reactively.
Yes,
It really is.
it really is.
You always keep in mind that God's in charge, but when things like that appear to, you know, come up to me, I react really right away, and I try not to, but I can't help it.
Well,
It's because it's such a hurtful thing and it's hard to understand.
yeah. One of the things is what I'm hearing you also doing is you're paying attention to the fact that you react. Many people don't pay attention to the fact they're reacting. They just react. You know. So that you're acknowledging it is very, very important. You know, how many people don't acknowledge it, and then, you know, and they think that's normal. And so things just escalate, you know, boom, 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 boom. So thank you for saying that, because, you know, you're also saying that you react, and that's important.
It's easier to control
Yeah.
when you know you react.
Yeah, and then you can be thoughtful about it. You know,
Exactly.
why did I just think like that, or why did I feel that? You know, or, you know, okay. Being a faithful disciple of Jesus, who I think really taught his disciples how to operate this too, it's hard work.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not for wimps. Forgiveness is not for wimps. It's way too much work. reconciling is not, or just letting go is not easy work. Ah.
I
So
guess when
my
you
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say it. Sometimes you think you let things go, and then something reminds you of it, and then you get angry again. So you really hadn't let it all go in the first place, even though you thought you had. So then you have to go back and pray some more and go back to the drawing board.
Well, and how do we, that's how we learn.
Yeah.
That's how we eventually break through. We learn from our mistakes, right? And
Right.
God is right there with
Right.
us. That's the
Right.
thing we don't think about, is that God is right there helping us figure out from what we've already screwed up, how to not screw it up the next time. Or how to just not do it the next time. Or that when we react again, oh, I reacted. Okay. So.
See, Pastor, it's just been a disappointing week.
Uh-huh.
That's how I feel. It's just been disappointing.
Yeah. Well, if
I thought we were better than that,
Yeah.
It's just,
But one thing you have to remember, Diana, is one thing. If one thing that did come out of that, our people did unite, black and white,
Yeah.
and friends. A lot of support was given to the family. It
yeah,
so when it came to that, it was a people thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that it connected all over our country,
Yeah.
So Saturday, Brittany and her son Jasper went on a bicycle ride in honor of Ahmad and what was happening. So,
Cool.
so people
I
are.
wanted to go to the rally, but honestly, I was afraid with all this COVID-19.
Yeah.
I just can't afford, and no one can afford to get that. So
Yes. Yeah.
I was there in spirit, but I couldn't go physically.
Yeah, me too. Because what they showed on the news, there were a lot of people that were socially distancing themselves. So that was kind of upsetting to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Poppy.
scary times, and people are, choosing. And I mean, thank them for showing up in the rally too, because But again, it's hard times. God is here, and I think through the miracle of the media, this whole thing that happened in February has been brought to national and world attention.
Yeah.
And it can't just be hidden anymore. It can't just be written under the rug anymore.
It's the only way it's ever going to stop.
Yeah, it's the only way.
Pastor, like John knows this, I've been wanting to have a conversation about the inequality and injustice that's been happening in this country. It's going to keep happening,
Yes.
unfortunately. Brunswick is not the only place where this has happened. It's like school shootings. They're going to keep happening and happening and happening. Same with this, unless if all people start to have a change in thought and attitude. And when it's safe to gather together again in person, I would really like to start a conversation in church or in the community or somewhere. Anyway, that's my thought on the subject.
Okay.
That's
Well,
cool.
That's a one of the things to be thinking about in this interim time, and especially with something like that, is where is God calling Lord of Life to be? And that may be a place, you know. This church becomes a gathering place where you don't forget and where you bring up things like this that are so important, where you bring up unification and reconciliation on a larger community and world basis. And just for ourselves too.
And Ellen, I presented this to my men's Bible group, where I'm with a lot of old Southern guys, and I initiated the conversation. I was really surprised how we actually had open conversation. We didn't all walk away agreeing, but we talked about it, and that was a big plus for us.
That's good.
Yeah.
Little steps, John, little steps.
Little steps. You gotta keep at it. Just have to keep at it.
Hey, Pastor Watt.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm here. Hello.
So I invite you to pray. And maybe this is, and just, you're doing something new if you've never done this before. It's always God's invitation to be with us in new ways is always gentle, always loving, always patient. We can't do it wrong, okay?
Okay.
We can't. Even if we're distracted the whole time. and what's important is you pick a prayer, just stay with it, even though it seems like it's really hard doing it that morning or that day. Just to work through it, because even though it's hard, God is still working in you. That's what we and then later on that day, you'll see something pop up that goes, oh. So our eyes and our ears are being opened in new ways, and we're not used to that. So even though it's hard, stay with the prayer.
Cool.
Distraction has never left me.
I just want
probably know I get distracted at the altar. So our first communion today, I forgot that I already instituted the elements, and I was going to reinstitute them. So it's like, hold it, I did do that. Okay, and so more people who were there the first time just had to deal with Pastor Craig. So
I just wanted to tell you, Pastor, that your service last Sunday was awesome, and you have a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you.
It was really good, very touching.
Well, this Sunday's, we're kind of short and sweet this Sunday, so.
Yeah, that's what I gathered up.
Pastor, is my understanding correct that you've crossed the bridge and you're now our interim?
We haven't signed the final contract, but it's all but finished. So
Okay, we're voting for you.
okay.
Yeah, that's
You-
great news.
We're going to let you stay a while.
Yeah, so we'll work together, and you'll be truly sick of me by the time you get that new person called. So
Doubt it.
that's the goal.
You take it.
Okay.
Thanks for asking that, Jim. I always keep forgetting, and I'm glad you remembered to ask that.
So I'm going to close our meeting, but thank you so much. It's been very productive. I thank you for all your shared insight and your struggles with sharing prayer. Again, you're invited. God is inviting us always to this wonderful way of being. And it's just moment by moment, because, you know, we've all learned, we've had our whole life to learn how to try to be in control. And giving it over to God is just
Difficult.
difficult, yes. So thank you, everyone, and God
Thank
bless
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor. Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Happy Mother's Day.
Good
Thank you for reminding us.
Mhm.
Take care, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.